Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. And today I'd like to show you how I made this card. This is the first in my Christmas cards this year. And I was inspired by the beautiful paper that comes in this Frosted Floral Specialty Designer Series paper in the new holiday catalog. It is absolutely stunning. This paper is all pearlized on the fronts and on the backs. Look at that beautiful silver gray. Isn't that gorgeous? And this floral pattern. And here's one that's got mint macaron and Blackberry Bliss. It's got so many beautiful colors, and look at that green. Isn't that just beautiful? And then this green, which is greens and grays together along with, looks like Tranquil Tide. Isn't that beautiful? And then every single piece of this paper is just stunningly beautiful. And I got to tell you that there's something just really special about it with all of this pearl, and I've never seen them do this before, where it's pearlized on both sides. Look at that. It's just gorgeous. And this is a piece that's got this beautiful Blackberry Bliss piece on it. I am in love with this paper. And this piece that I have out here, I've used just about every single bit of it because I'm going to use this for a swap that I have to do this month. And we said anything with a holiday theme, so this is what this paper looks like. And these are some of the pieces that I have left of it here. And it is just absolutely gorgeous. The colors are so non-traditional for Christmas, but I have to tell you, I just love them. So, what do we need to make this card? I used a Whisper White base that is 8.5 by 5.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4. Then I'm using a piece of Blackberry Bliss that is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 to fit and layer on the front of the card. Then this piece of designer series paper ends up being 3 1/4 by 5, and this piece of designer series paper, isn't that luscious together, is 2 inches by 5 1/8. Then I have some additional pieces here. I have a piece of Blackberry Bliss that is 3/4 of an inch by 5 3/8. Then I have a piece that is 1 inch by 3 inches. Then I have a strip of this paper that is a 1/2 inch by 5 inches. Then I have a little piece of white here for my sentiment that is 2 3/4 by 3/4. I have one of these pretty pearled doilies. And then I'm using the Merry Christmas from the Star of Light. I just love the font on this one, so I'm using that Merry Christmas. And then I am using a couple of dies from the Pretty Pines die set. I'm using this little sprig here, and I'm using this pine here, and that's the embellishments that I have on here. And the other thing that I'm using, and it was an experiment, and I'm going to share with you, this has ended up being a little blotchy, so I'm going to share with you how not to have that happen to you. In the new catalog, one of the things that comes are these frosted paints. In fact, it's called all-purpose ink. This is frost white. It also comes in a pretty bright copper, and it comes in something called Vegas gold, and then it also comes in this color, which is champagne mist. And what I was trying to do was get a shimmer spray to spray all over everything, and I'll show you what happened. I finally got it to spray properly, and I think you might be able to see that if I bring it up to the camera. I'll try to get it up here and get it in the light so you can see it. There, I think you can see it there. It's got a shimmer spray, and how I accomplished that was I used my spritzer, and I put a little bit of this shimmer paint, this frost white, in my spritzer, and then I filled it with alcohol. And the first time that I did it was a disaster. I'm glad I used another piece of paper. Yes, this was it. When I first sprayed it, it sprayed a little bit and then it started coming out in a stream, and all I could get was this. And I finally decided that you have to add so tiny an amount of this paint. I thought I had only put in a couple of drops. So I shook it up real good, emptied about half of it out, and then filled it back up with more alcohol and got it to spray. And that's how I finally got this fine mist, which was what I was going for to begin with. But if you're going to turn these into shimmer spray, I'm going to suggest that you use just the tiniest amount of this paint in your mister, or it turns into just a stream, and that's not what you're going to want. Anyway, so let's just get started. It's actually quite a simple card to put together. So I've already cut my little sprig and my couple of pine leaves, and I did frost my pine leaves with some of this pearlized paint. I'm going to try and spray these. In fact, I'm going to see if I can spray these and then let them dry. So maybe I'll start with that, because I was anxious to get everything sprayed that wasn't already pearled. So like these pieces here, and maybe even this piece. And so I'm going to use my spray here and see if I can't get a spray mist on these pieces to get started. And then they can sit and dry while we put the rest of the card together. And I'm going to start fairly far away so that I don't and you can see I'm fairly well soaking these things. There's not much of this paper that's going to show, so that's all I'm going to do there. And that's alcohol, so it should dry fairly quickly. I'm just going to set that aside and see if we can get that to dry and whether that's enough shimmer or I want to add some paint to it. So I'll just set these aside over here and let those dry a bit while we work on some more of the card. All right, so the very first thing we're going to do is adhere this piece of Blackberry Bliss on the face of this card. I'm just going to add a little bit of snail on the back of my Blackberry Bliss panel here and put that in place onto my card. And this is cut so that there's really a very tiny little border around this this panel. All right, and so then let's see what my paper did here. You know, it was already pearlized. I don't think it was worth it. So let me see if I have another piece of it. There's a slight difference, but not much. So I wouldn't bother to spray this piece if you do this. Okay, so I'm just going to, again, put some snail down on the back of this piece. And because it was wet with the alcohol, I'm going to put lots of snail so I can get it to lay down flat. And I'm going to place this piece on here with roughly the same border at the top and the bottom here. There we go. All right. Then this piece also lays flat, and the only thing that's actually raised on this is these little pieces have dimension and then are sentiment. All right. You know, this one almost qualifies as a fast and beautiful because there's so little that you have to do to it to get it ready to go. This one I put on here with a similar border top to bottom, and that leaves very little border, just a tiny little border along the top here on this piece. There we go. All right. All right. And then on this piece, I should have put this down first. That's all right. I'm using my silicone mat, and I'm just putting a little bit of snail in some strategic spots around this doily. And what I did was, I wanted this on here, but I didn't want the whole circle on. So I put it part way down, and then I used my snips to come along and cut it so that it matched up with the designer series paper border here, like that. And there we go. I just thought it added a little something to it, especially since it was pearlized the way it was, that made it a little bit easier to use. Okay, so now I'm ready to stamp my Merry Christmas, and here is my Blackberry Bliss ink, and this is photopolymer, so I really should have my Pierce mat underneath here. So I'm going to bring, it's maybe time to change this paper on here. Put this here and ink up my Merry Christmas. I'm going to edge it over to this side so that I can banner this end, or flag that end. Pardon my head if I get it in the video here. Just trying to get this straight. And there we go. Well, it's not exactly straight. Maybe I'll do that again. There we go. All right. Now I'm going to use my trimmer. I'm not going to try to do this by eye. I'm going to just take that at 3/4 by 2 3/4, and it should be perfect for what we want to do on this card. So there we go. Now we had this piece of Blackberry Bliss, and it's glittered up so nicely with this shimmer spray that I used. I don't know how well you can see that, but it's just got the light mist of the shimmer spray on it. Now I'm going to flag this bottom, and I'm going to do it by bringing these two pieces together down here at the bottom, and then I'm going to use my snips to come up a ways and then come in from either side. And when you put your pieces together like I've done on this one, when you cut your flag and then move them away, they're exactly similar. There we go. All right, so all you do is just push this then back here so that it's got a similar border and should have a nice border all the way along. All right, that should be exactly right. Now, for this piece, what I'm going to do is simply, and I think that's all of the stamping we need to do, so I'm going to put my ink away before I stick something in it I don't want to. And I'm going to add just a little bit of snail on the back of this piece and get it added to my piece of Blackberry Bliss here. All right, so this is going to go up on dimension. Kind of a long banner, so I'm going to put 3 on. Before I do that, let me get this placed here where I want it, and take my pieces here that are frosted and put them in place. So I think I want them to be like this, and then I'll take my little sprig, and actually these pieces match the pattern in the paper almost perfectly. When I ordered the paper, somehow I thought I had ordered the bundle and I didn't, so I've got the bundle coming, which has other stamps and things that you can put in here. So I used the ones from Pretty Pines to do this first one, and then I can make some adjustments when the other piece comes. But I think just about like that, with all of this stuff moved down just a hair on the card. And I did these pine boughs out of Mossy Meadow. So I did the green out of Mossy Meadow, and then I did this little sprig out of the Blackberry Bliss. And the only other thing I did was, in the way of embellishments, is I added some pearl detail to this card, which we're going to do here. And I took some of these medium-sized pearls and I put 3 of them just down this top side here. And I think maybe I'll just go ahead and add one to my Merry Christmas here, just so that it has something that matches. But I think that placement, and see, it's not blotchy like this. I tried a couple of different techniques, and this is actually much prettier. So this is what I think I'm going to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is to glue these pieces down, and I'm going to start with this one in the back. And again, I'm just going to put a little bit of snail because that's going to be hidden underneath the banner. And the fact that this sticks up a little bit doesn't bother me at all, because it just adds a little dimension to that. So there's that piece there. Now I'm going to do the same with both of these pieces. Add just a tiny bit of snail so that I can get them stuck down like that. And then on this piece as well. Just enough that it stays put, and then my dimensionals on the back of my sentiment will also help hold some of this down. But if we put that in place like that, then we take our sentiment here and add that Merry Christmas right across there. Isn't that pretty? There's something about the green and the purple that I just love together. Such a pretty color combination. Okay, on the inside of this card, I did a little bit of a collage almost of some of this pretty paper that I have. So here's my 3 pieces, and I've got this one misted, which is nice because it's all full of shimmer now. And you can see I just put 3 pieces down here, so this is all very simply a little bit of snail to get these pieces down. I made this one fairly long and tried to leave the same amount of border on the top and the bottom. Then I placed my piece of the Purple Designer Series paper just centered on it. And this, by the way, is 3/4 of an inch by 4, and I don't think I said that earlier. So I'm going to add a little bit of snail. The back side of this is just beautiful. It just breaks my heart not to figure out a way to use both sides. So I just kind of centered this piece here and then put some snail on this one and put it across both pieces here, kind of almost in the middle, if you will, of the other piece of Designer Series paper. There we go. So that I can bring the outside of the card to the inside by putting all of those various pieces there. And I suppose we could take a couple of these little tiny pearls here and put them in place on the opposite end of the outside of the card and put 3 tiny pearls right in here. Okay, there we go. All right, that's pretty much the project. I have one other piece to share with you. So there's our cards for today, but this is something I wanted to share with you. I want you to look at this absolutely stunningly beautiful card. This was a card that I received over the weekend from one of my customers. Her name is Cindy Coven, and she's obviously a very talented card maker. And this beautiful card she made for me. Isn't that just the most stunning thing you've ever seen? I am just blown away. It is so beautiful. And she had made a comment to me recently saying that it took her a long time to make cards. And I'm looking at this and thinking, now I know why. This is absolutely one of the most beautiful things I think I've ever seen. And so thank you, Cindy, so much. It is just gorgeous. And I thought I would share that with you because it is so different. It's an oversized card. So this one is 6 1/4 inches by 5 1/2. So it's really quite a large card and absolutely beautiful. Again, thank you so much, Cindy. I just love it. It's going to go in a very honored place in my craft room. Thanks again. Okay, So that was the project for the day, for the very first Christmas card. And I know it's August, but I do start in August, and I have several of them planned. My next one will be using that limited time bundle, Blended Seasons, because it's got so many pieces on it. It has both fall and Christmas. So I'm not sure which I'm doing first, but I'm going to do a fall one out of that set and a Christmas one, so you can get some additional ideas. That stamp set and bundle is available for order through month end. And this is the bundle here, Blended Seasons. And I've made something with this one now, so I'll have one coming with the leaves and the wheat shafts here, and then there's some pieces here that there's a leaf down here. So we'll do something for fall, and then I'll be following that up. It's also got a beautiful Merry Christmas stamp in it, and then these framelits are double stitched, so it makes a stitching on the inside of the cut and one on the outside of the cut. Also available through the end of the month is this set of 10 watercolor pencils for $12.50. And if you buy the bundle on this one, you save 10%. So again, limited time offer just for the through the end of the month. And what this flyer shows is all of the pieces in the bundle up here, but down here it's showing them in their actual size. So this holly sprig here is actually this size. So again, absolutely a stunningly beautiful set, and I really, really love it, and I've enjoyed working with it, and I think I will continue to enjoy working with it. Let's see, if you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I'd love to be your Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and this will be available, the material here. Now the Pretty Pines stamp, it's called, the stamp set on that set is called Christmas Pines, and the die set is called Pretty Pines. And so that set is in the annual catalog and is available now. This beautiful paper and everything that's attached to it will be available in September, on September 1st. And for those of you that are my customers that have ordered through me, you automatically get a catalog from me. Mine should be arriving to my customers maybe by the end of this week, middle to the end of this week. And then it's open to the public for ordering on September 1st. And so this is the first one of the season. Thanks so much for joining me today. I do so appreciate it. And I'll be back soon with more projects and more cards. Bye.